link, and then I can there he is.
There's Jalen. What's going on, sir?
Looks like we've got one attendee joining us. Thank you. Welcome for being here. We're going to get started in just about 5 minutes.
It's Miriam. Oh, hey, Miriam.
Looks like Mariam and Lauren. Thank you for being here tonight. We're just getting settled. We're going to get started in the program in just about 5 minutes.
5 minutes to find a spot.
Oh, Mariam is on.
Jalen, you able to? Jalen, doing okay? Able to get in with us? Can you hear anything? Hi, Mariam.
Yeah,
no, we can't. Okay, great. Hi, Mariam. No, we can't hear you because you're an attendee, but welcome. We're happy you're here. How good.
Can you all see me?
Can't see you, but I can hear you.
I'm not sure what's going on with my front camera.
And all your adoring fans want to see your face, brother.
I know. I'm gonna hop out and try to come back in. I'm not sure what's going on with my camera. All right.
We've got about 4 minutes. So that's great.
Okay.
And this is why we asked y'all to come on early, just in case.
Okay. I found a
Mariam's seeing how the sausage is made right now. Get some behind the scenes.
BTS footage.
She already knows.
I'm so sorry. Sorry. I had to plug my phone back up. Hope you all enjoyed the picture of Diane Nash.
I didn't even notice. I feel like you were on
either.
Okay. Okay, hello.
There we go.
Yes.
Aubrey over there in Club X. That's what the old time was called. Extreme Library Club X.
For real? No, I want to make it known I'm not laughing at anybody. I'm laughing at myself. I'm sorry. I'm just over here laughing at myself. Sorry.
Laugh away. So while everybody is getting settled in and everything, interesting bit of news. The Milwaukee Bucks did not take the court for Game 5 today.
Just saw that. Pretty awesome. We've got a few more attendees who joined us. Thank you all for being with us. We're going to get started in just about 2 minutes. We're just getting settled, but thank you all for being here tonight. All right.
There you go.
There you go. Jalen, I'm going to go ahead and change your name just so we have it written correctly on the screen, but that works. Let me make sure I get it.
You could be worse people than Daryl Young, but
I mean, but then, you know. Am I,
you to know who you are.
Am I spelling this correctly? Is it J-A-I?
Yes, J-A-I-L-E-N.
One second, sorry, I just lost it. L-E-A-N and then L-A?
L-E-A-V-E-L-L.
Got it. Let me see. I'm going to change it, make sure I've spelled it correctly here. Does that look right? Yeah.
Yep, that's good.
Thank you. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn my video off. I'm going to go ahead and get us live streamed onto Facebook. So if everyone wants to go ahead and turn your cameras on panel, well, you're welcome to turn your microphones on as well. And then Daryl will take us live in just a minute. Actually, Daryl, I'll leave my camera on until we're live and I'll let you know. And then say ready to go. I'll do that right now. All right, Daryl, I'm going to go ahead and turn off and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, good evening to everybody out there who is under the sound of my voice right now. We are so happy and thrilled to have you. My name is Daryl Young Jr. I have the pleasure of serving as the manager of program at the Muhammad Ali Center. And tonight I have the even more distinct pleasure and honor to kick off our Muhammad Ali Center I Am America series. This series is focused on racial and social justice. And I couldn't think of a more perfect and better way to start off a conversation like that, talking to some of our young leaders, activists in our city who are really out here on the front lines. I'm really following the tradition of social justice movements, seeing young people take the lead, take the forefront, make their voice heard. And I'm just so honored and happy to be with them tonight, who you will hear from, and to have this conversation with you all. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'll start off with Imani.
Hi, everyone. I'm Imani Smith. I am a community organizer, a youth advocate here in Louisville. Yeah, I'm just so happy to be with you all tonight.
Thanks, Imani. Aubrey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Aubrey Stevenson. I'm also a youth organizer here in Louisville, and I'm also a student at the University of Louisville. And yeah, I'm just glad to be here today. So yay.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Jalen.
Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Jalen Level, currently a senior at Tennessee State University. Really just, an advocate within Louisville and here in Nashville.
Awesome. I want to thank all of you all for taking the time out. I know you guys are students. I know for a lot of you guys, you are in the midst of going back and forth, getting on campus, getting classes started. So just thank you for making time, and not even just being students, but again, you guys are leaders, you're activists, you're the ones who are organized, you're the ones who are, doing, the movement work, right? So just the fact that you took time to speak today, we are very thankful. For our audience tonight, I do have a set of questions for our panelists. And if you do have any questions, we will ask you to drop those in the chat box. We will try to reserve some time towards the end of the conversation for you all to ask your questions, and we'll try to get those answered. I do have some questions, but first, I think it's very important for us to ground ourselves and just to check in and just ask, how are you all doing? Just how are you doing right now?
Imani, do you want to go first? Or me? Okay. I'm doing good. Just getting adjusted with school. This is all kind of new for me since I'm a freshman, and then still, doing school along with, organizing with other youth. It's just a lot, but I'm still living, so I'm blessed. So yeah. Thank you. Well, to the mix.
I guess I can go. Yeah, there's just a lot of adjusting in both, being a part of the movement, especially here in Louisville with everything that's going on, and then personal life, being a student. I just started back at school. I'm a sophomore at Center College. So we just started classes again today, and that's all different because of the situation. I'm here in Louisville, I'm remote. So getting back into the swing of things, taking my Arabic classes again, and just being engaged in both, I guess, aspects of me. It has its own challenges, but they're both very rewarding.
Yeah, I guess I'll go last. I'm doing really well. Kind of commuting back and forth from Louisville to Nashville. I started classes last week, so I'm in my senior year. So now it's really trying to figure out who Jalen is going to be post college. Beyond that, definitely still every time I'm in Louisville, staying on the front lines and staying updated with the fight for justice in the city, and also trying to build relationships with organizers here, specifically in Nashville, to kind of collaborate. So, but I'm doing well, doing well.
So I'm glad to hear that from all of you. I think it's important to remember that even as we take on these roles, responsibilities, these titles, to always put our humanity first at the forefront, that we're people first, right? And people are allowed
Right.
to breathe, they're allowed to live, they're allowed to have joy, right? I think sometimes we forget that in the movement because we understand the tremendous amount of work that needs to be done, that we forget to take care of ourselves, right? So I'm glad that you all are doing well. I would encourage you all to continuously check in on yourself, drink water, hydrate, right? Get some sleep, because we need y'all, because y'all doing some phenomenal work. So my first question, and I'm gonna start with Aubrey, is, and then we can just kind of go around, but just kind of some direction so we're not having those kind of awkward pauses. What's brought you to this moment where you're at now? What has brought you to this moment of being a leader, being an activist, finding your voice? What has brought you here? How did you get here?
Well, I was thinking about this question, and I think the two main things that's brought me has most definitely been being, one, a part of my high school's Black Student Union, as well as being a part of, obviously, the Muhammad Ali Center Council of Students, and just, being around like-minded individuals who kind of think the same as me, want change within our community. It's just, I can't sit back and watch everything that's going on and not do anything. It's like I'm passionate about helping my community. So with the knowledge I've gained from, being in BSU and then being a Max, I just knew that it was, in my alley to, be active within my community. So yeah, that's pretty much really it.
Great. Imani?
I think that for me, I've told this story before. I tell it quite often. I'm the daughter of a pastor here in Louisville, both on my mother's side, but most definitely on my father's side. We've been sort of a part of that narrative of being a part of the community, of, always understanding, being conscious of that struggle, of the struggle for liberation, of the struggle for building community, and of really speaking life and sustaining the Black community. In fact, my uncle, my dad's brother, he did stuff with Martin Luther King when King would come to Louisville. So I think that I have always kind of been brought up with this consciousness of who I am in the context of the society that we live, and what it is my purpose to do, and how I can engage myself in being an asset to my community and to society, and for advancing the benefits and the blessings that we can all kind of take on and benefit from. But I think that it definitely, for me, coming into my own voice and coming into this work really kind of started maybe 2 years ago, in getting more involved with policy and going to different sort of conferences like Girls Nation, learning about policy, learning about government, learning about what's wrong with government, and learning about, the disenfranchisements that this society kind of pushes on Black people, that it pushes on Black women, that it pushes on people of color, trans people. It's keep going. So I think that just that, being engaged with policy, meeting different lawmakers like Charles Booker, like Atticus Scott, and really getting to learn from them, really getting to sort of sit at the table with them, hear about how they came into this work, hearing about their hopes, their dreams, their frustrations, because there are a lot of them, and really getting to have those diverse perspectives, those diverse experiences, and getting the opportunity to make it my own. And like Aubrey said, seeing what's wrong in the world and understanding that we can't just sit back and be silent, about it, that we have to make good trouble, that we have to be out there, that we have to do the things that we know that are necessary, that are convictions for us, like President Obama said last week, that are convictions for us and pushing the movement, pushing the work forward.
Thanks, Imani. Jalen?
Yeah, I think for me, growing up in West Louisville, I was in the River City Drum Corps, and through that Cultural Arts Institute, I was able to get a foundation of understanding the culture, African American culture, going back to Africa and the roots of rhythms, right? But I think it wasn't until high school, and I was 16 years old, I had the opportunity to work with Youth Violence Prevention Research Center as a fellow. And growing up in West Louisville, you see obviously that your community doesn't look like communities in the eastern part of Louisville, where violence is significantly increased, but you really don't understand why as a child. And working with YBPRC at the age of 16, it gave me the opportunity to learn the systemic marginalization that comes with being oppressed as far as West Louisville. And from there, that information, I was like, wow, I actually have power to create change as a young person. Wow, as a youth leader, I can make a difference. So I took the information that my mentors at YBPRC taught me and created a Black Student Union at PRP, Pleasure Ridge Park, which is a predominantly white high school, right? So you could only imagine what that was like, a 16 years old talking about power and an uprising at a white school. So from there, you saw suspension rates of Black kids drop. You saw fights with Black children decrease. And I don't know, I feel like I always tell my friend, we were ahead of our time. Like if we were to go back into high school, just think with what's going on today in 2020, the difference we could make. But I think just at 16, getting that understanding of the structural aspects and how we can dismantle these systems really has helped me understand now how I can liberate and inform my people in college and continue to press forward with this movement.
So, Jalen, I did not know that you went to PRP. I also went to PRP, so I can't imagine the struggle you had to do that. Amazing work that you were able to
Yes.
lift up. So, kudos to
Yes.
that. So when we talk about, this term activist, leader, organizer, I want to hear from your perspective. What do those terms mean to you? How do they play out for you? How do you show up with those terms? And do you think your youth and your age informs that perspective? I'm going to start with Jalen. I'm going to snake back around.
Yeah, I think as young people, we have the power to create that change. Oftentimes, like as a journalist, I follow other journalists and they're saying, oh, youth are taking the lead now. This is something new. When in actuality, it isn't anything new. You had CORE, you had SNCC. Like when you look at the civil rights movement, most of the youth were at the forefront of that change, while their parents were at work in the day. So I think we're really just the offsprings of our grandparents, baby boomers. So when we talk about organizers and activists from a youth perspective, I think it's dope. Like in Louisville, we have the Youth Coalition that I believe, Aubrey and Imani are on that too. And I remember when we had the first big meeting with the mayor and Reverend Jesse Jackson, it was just amazing to see so many brilliant youth in one room. And I think, we really have something good for our city and continue to elevate that throughout the state. So I'm all for youth activism. I just think we should understand that this didn't happen overnight. We're still learning.
Aubrey?
Yeah, kind of like what Jalen said about the whole learning aspect. I kind of take in, being called, because recently I've just heard, oh, Aubrey, you're an activist, or Aubrey, you're an organizer. And I never thought I would be have necessarily the confidence to be in a space to be called that, or do any actions to where I would be able to uphold that title. So, but when I'm around people who've been doing this for a long time, I always tell them, you know, even though I'm doing the things that I'm doing, I'm always here to learn. I'm always here, you know, to learn new things, to, you know, improve what I'm doing and improve what I'm standing for and what I'm fighting for. So just the learning aspect's really important to me when I hear that, but also, you know, this time, like I said before, you know, I don't want to sit back watching um, all of these things happen within our community as well as our country. It's important to me, and it's important being surrounded by all these amazing youth that we come together and use our voices and just use our power as individuals and our power to not be afraid to speak out against what's wrong, to, you know, make change within the society. I don't know, I can't just sit on my couch and just watch everything. Like I just feel the need to do something. So that's really what that means to me, honestly.
Yeah, just even sort of piggybacking off of what Aubrey said, that sort of, that passion and that ability to be able to see the world with fresh eyes, to have come up and to be continuing to continue to learn and to continue to, you know, see the world as it is even right now. I think that that's really what makes the youth's perspective so so fresh and so needed. I see that in the question it asks sort of what the apprehension is about, you know, youth leading. And I think that there's apprehension in also many different areas of who takes the lead, who puts their voice out there, who's visible. And I think that specifically when it comes to how maybe older folks or more mature folks look at youth, it's because we've all kind of come up in this community and this knowledge of what this country has done to Black lives, to Black and Brown lives. And I think that for a lot of people who are much older than us, they want to protect us. They don't want to see us being put down. They don't want to see what happens continually. They don't want to see us to be targeted. And I think that I would probably just encourage those who are older than us, those who have been in the movement for a longer period of time, to really just take a step back and really just let it grow. To understand that I think that my generation and many generations before mine, but especially my generation, because so much of what we're fighting for is such a conviction. It's such a deep-rooted conviction. It's such a deep-rooted belief. And because we understand where we want to go, we understand the vision, we're creating that vision together, to just bring us into these spaces. And don't be afraid for us. Now, yes, you can provide for us, but understand that we're in this for the long run. We're long distance runners. We're conditioning ourselves to be that because we understand that this struggle for Black lives is a long struggle, that, you know, uprooting racism, uprooting systemic oppression is going to take some time. And so I think that even just going off that, speaking to youth, is that activism to us is internaling that purpose of the movement. It's internaling that struggle. It's internaling what we and our existence is. It's internaling all of that and making that a daily practice. Documenting it, just being on the ground, being in those spaces, soaking it all in, not necessarily being performative, but taking it in, making good trouble, and to center our morals, our ethics, our actions, our lifestyles around focusing and centering on policies that are going to affect us, that are going to benefit us, that are going to push us forward.
Thank you. I'm going to have Aubrey and Jalen speak on that. And Jalen, to your point, the idea that you've not been present in the movement is ahistorical, right? So we know that movements like SNCC and CORE that you mentioned were prominent during the time that we had the SCLC, which was your much older contingent of traditional church-led activism. But King, I think people forget King when he's assassinated at 39. So it's not like he was 55, 65, 75. You know, he starts off, you know, as a young minister, you know, finishing up out of Morehouse. He's in his 20s during the, you know, the boycotts in Montgomery and everything. John Lewis, young. Stokely Carmichael, young. But again, to Imani's point, it is still some apprehension of things, and we talk about letting youth lead, letting youth speak, right? The title of this session was a play on the old adage that youth should be seen and not heard. So the title for our conversation tonight was "You Should Be Seen and Heard," right? So Aubrey, have you seen any apprehension? Have you seen any kind of uneasiness when you've been able to be in spaces and organizing to see, you know, to let young people really step up? Has that been an issue for you?
Not necessarily. I just notice really when I'm in a space filled with people who've been doing this for a long time, they're kind of more hesitant to let us, you know, take like that sort of like big girl or big dude role, like, you know, be the lead and everything because of the whole experience aspect. Like they all know that we're mostly just like 18 or 19, even 16, 17. So it's just the whole age aspect I feel like is a big problem. Like we're surrounded by, you know, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds who kind of have this more level up to us. I feel like they feel they just know a lot more and just know what to do a lot more and know what to speak on. But I've just seen, especially within us, we're not afraid to speak on things that we're passionate about. We're not afraid to yell. We're not afraid to get in people's faces, especially when it comes to fighting for Black liberation. So that's when I kind of, you know, notice that happening, but then have this sort of like confidence in knowing that what we're about to do, especially if we're doing an action or planning an action, that we're going to be successful at it because we know what we're doing and we know what we want to have accomplished. Yeah.
Jalen?
Yeah, I would certainly agree. However, I feel like as young people, sometimes we can feel like we know everything, and in actuality, we don't. We've only been on the planet for 18 to 20 plus years, right? So it's important for us to lead and be at the forefront, but we also have to ensure that we're listening and following the guidance and the directions of our elders that understand a little more than we might. But I'm certainly for young people being at the forefront. And personally, every organization that I've been affiliated with, I know the advisors or the adults in the settings have been intentional about letting youth make decisions and kind of guiding versus making the decision and more so a dictatorship.
So you guys are kind of speaking to this idea that there needs to be some intergenerational work, right? There needs to be some cooperation between young folks and old folks, right? I think we've heard the dialogue that, oh, these old folks just won't get out the way and let us move. They won't listen to us. They're trying to, you know, keep a hold on position and power. And then from the old folks, like, these young bucks don't know anything. They just, you know, they still wet behind the ear. I'm sure at my age by utilizing some of these phrases or whatnot. But we've heard on both sides, and it really sounds like, to all your point, that we just need to really sit down. What does that look like for you all, for this intergenerational coming together, meeting of the minds? What does that look like to kind of heal some of those wounds, to kind of clear up some of that misunderstanding, to really form a bond? What do you all think needs to happen? What can that look like? How can we imagine that space, what it needs to be for that kind of conversation, that healing, that unity to come about? And I'm gonna start it with Jalen.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. For me personally, I think we talk about the intersectionality, but we also have to ensure that we're talking intergenerational. And I think it's us as young people going back and looking for the history, learning, finding those hidden figures in the community. Specifically in Louisville, we have a gym, Maddie Jones, right? So I think every young person should try to get as much information as they can from people like her, and to learn the past so the present can move forward, right? So I think that would be my advice for more young people as we engage and continue to mobilize and galvanize support.
Aubrey?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Jalen said. Like I said before, you know, the whole learning aspect, like, I think it's really important as we continue to do this work and we're surrounded by older people who've gone through, you know, similar circumstances. It's just what we're going through is like the modern version per se. But, you know, just taking in, you know, their stories and just what they've gone through and just, you know, listening. I think another thing as far as like cooperation with both our generation and the older generation, I feel like it's a thing of just community as well as, you know, like a holding hand aspect. I'm sorry, I'm like more visual. Like, I just see us as holding hands, like kind of our generation being more of the I got you guys. Like, we got you. We know that what you guys have done hasn't necessarily worked as far as like there's some things that's worked out, but obviously with the country how it is today, there's some things that obviously wasn't fixed when, you know, our older generation was doing the work that they were doing, and now it's kind of came into a modern day where, you know, we're fighting this fight as 18, 19, 20 and up year olds, and we just have this energy to fight just like them, but we want to help them out as far as, you know, they're going to be here still. And I don't know, when you asked that question, I really thought of my grandmother, and I've talked to her a lot about, you know, this work. She's aware of everything that I've been doing. And the one thing that she always says is just for me to be careful, and that she loves me, and that she apologizes that we have to go through all of these things, and, you know, fight like this. Like, she just wishes, the main thing that I take away from when we have our conversations is that she's always like, I wish that you could just live your life. And I'm like, it just makes me want to cry, really, because, you know, I wish that too, but just her gentleness. And I just want to take in the older generation. Like, they're so gentle, they just want the best for us. And I'm like, and they just want to support us, but like also, you know, keep us in their arms, don't want us to get hurt. And I just feel like our generation's like, I got you, like, I promise, but we got to do what we got to do, basically. So
I feel like for me, just as a community activist, as someone who in this past summer has been put in different situations, some of them dangerous, just in the sense of like marching, and just, you know, the summation of all those experiences, I feel like I can piggy off a lot of what Aubrey said, in that when we say that we want youth to have more, not necessarily a stake, but to be more at the forefront of the movement, we don't necessarily say just pushing out older generations, more mature generations. I think that specifically for, in my mind, that the way that I envision this movement, the way that is most healthiest for me, that I think that is probably most healthiest for all of us, is to seek out those mentors, seek out the people who have been in the struggle for so long. And just as they listen to us, we listen to them, that we hold space to hear about their concerns for us, hear about what they had to go through, hear about the things that didn't make the cameras, you know, back in the 60s, back in the 70s. We need to keep that understanding that a lot of what we probably know about, you know, the era of the movement in the 60s, I don't want to just call it the civil rights movement, because it still continues, but we don't know everyone's perspective of back then. We don't know how everyone felt. We don't know how everyone processed that movement. And as we have folks here with us now, we need to be asking them those questions. We need to ask them to be honest and real with us. What were you frustrated about? What did you feel that didn't get accomplished? What were you excited about? What do you look back on that time and celebrate? And like Aubrey's grandmother, what do you hope for us? And really just bringing everyone along with us in this movement, holding space for people to be themselves and to learn and to be able to share those heart-wrenching moments. Because the movement work is exceptionally personal. And it comes at you at all different sides, all different angles. So really just bringing people along with us. With YCL, one of our big things that we've been doing, and Aubrey can attest to this, when we've been organizing YCL this summer, is that we had a civic leadership fellowship. And a big part of that fellowship that we had to be a part of, that we had to integrate into our work, was holding those conversations with our parents, holding those conversations with our grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, who are older than us from different generations, all seeing how they process, like I said, process the movement, how they came to be where they are, and what they regret, what they miss about the movement. One of those conversations I had with my grandmother, and you could hear in her voice how much excitement she had for us, in that she said that it feels very familiar, that the young people that she's seeing right now, the young people that she sees out in the protests and what we're saying, that she has so much hope. And that is so encouraging. That's a message of love right there, of that we're continuing this work that is our liberation, that we're going to get free, and that the work continues on, and that we can string along those perspectives, those narratives, and make it really into a sustainable, loving, accountable piece of just our experience, and that we will be able to pass on down to our children, helping them to understand why we're doing what we're doing right now. And hopefully we'll be further when at that point, but encouraging them to be active, encouraging them to be mindful and conscious of the different perspectives around them. So I think that it's really just that, integrating radical love and restorative justice in all of that.
Thanks, Imani. So you guys are young people, clearly younger than I am. But I think it was important for us to really have authentic you voice. Like, you guys are actually plugged in. You are actually young people, right? You know, sometimes in Hollywood, you have a TV show and they're like, oh, they're in high school, but really they're like all like 30 years old, the actors and stuff. But like, you are legitimate, like, young people. So I want to know, as young people who are plugged in, what is the pulse of the youth in Louisville? How are you all feeling? What are the feelings? What are the thoughts around what's going on with justice in Louisville? You know, Imani, you kind of started off by saying, you know, just looking at the fact that we are, you know, everybody on this call has a connection to Louisville. We're all either in Louisville or from Louisville. And Louisville has clearly been in the national spotlight in terms of Breonna Taylor, David McAtee, and countless others before those individuals who have been brutalized, you know, by, you know, police brutality and other just forms of oppression. How are young people dealing with that? What are you hearing? What are they telling you? What do they want lifted up? Like, what do young people, like, what is the pulse of young people right now in Louisville? And I'll start with Aubrey on that one.
I know, especially being on campus and being surrounded by other youth that have also been organizing, not just Imani and Jalen. I've had a recent conversation with them, and the biggest thing it's kind of more on a negative note, but just how exhausting everything is, like all of this work, we're all doing it because we're very passionate about it, but just, we're in the age of social media and, the news being on every single day and just seeing, countless things happening to people within our community and just seeing it every day as we scroll through our feeds and, turn on the news. It just, we're so passionate that we want to continue to do it, but just seeing it every day, it can just make our emotions very sad and, we can become overwhelmed. Like personally, I've been very overwhelmed for the past 2 weeks, not only just because of everything I've been seeing, but also, dealing with this and still trying to organize and then starting school 2 weeks ago. So I just kind of, as a person who's organizing and a person that's in these spaces, I always try to reassure to everybody that mental health and, healing is important, especially during this. Like everything happening within our community, it can just be a lot for us to take in, a lot for us to deal with. So I always try to advocate everybody to, take one day to, for yourself, go get some ice cream or, go chill with some friends, social distance, but chill with your friends and, watch a movie or something. Like I listen to music a lot, just, to calm me down. But I think that's really, really big, just the whole like exhaustion, but also on a positive note, you know, um, there's so many people that came to me and have just been like, I'm so glad that we're starting to really speak out and take action on things that's been happening, because for so long it's just been pushed back and, not spoken about, or action hasn't been taken against these. We've just kind of been so normalized to seeing, people within our community get shot by the police and nobody does anything about it. And people, especially people who graduated with me, as well as, go to school with me now, have just been like, I'm just so glad that there's people who are so passionate about this, being in the streets and using their voice to, say what needs to be said that hasn't been said. So that's a big thing, especially recently, that's just kept me going despite everything being overwhelming, is that there's people that are, proud, and people who are like looking towards us to be that change within our community. And, just the appreciation that there's people who want to see change, and there's people that are dedicating, their time, that their off time, where we could just be, being quote quote normal teenagers, to actually going and coming together and organizing things to better our community. Like I enjoy it. It can be a lot, but that's something that I really enjoy. And the fact that people are coming to me and everybody else and being like, thank you, like it makes me want to continue to do all of this and not stop until we get Black liberation.
Thanks, Aubrey. Jalen?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of pride, right? For me specifically, I said I'm in Nashville, and just earlier today I was at the store and a guy asked where you were from. He asked me where I was from, and I said, "Oh, I'm from Louisville." He was like, "Louisville? Oh my God, I've seen Louisville all over the news, everything that's going on." And he had so much pride and was so excited to know what's going on in Louisville, and just having that conversation with him, and then knowing that young people like myself are at the forefront of that and creating that change, it gave me some pride. However, I think the con within our generation is we're a microwave generation. Literally, things change every 30 minutes. You can click on your timeline and something you saw this morning is no longer relevant by the end of the day. So within that, when we compare it to the movement this summer, I feel like we hit a peak. Social media was definitely an asset in terms of awareness. I think every person that I follow is aware that this is a movement and they are needed, right? But I think we have to continue to be intentional of how issue this movement as a young person. Posting a black box on Instagram, it's just not going to get it. We have to do more. So I think we have to take our activism and our awareness and our cry for reform beyond social media. So that's definitely something that I would say about our generation. Even here at school specifically, you know, we come here at TSU, most students come from privileged backgrounds, right? So I think it's making sure they're aware of, as a Black person, no matter what your socioeconomic background is, you still play a role within this movement. So yeah, that's what I would say in relation to young people.
And Imani, what have you heard as you've been organizing and you've been interacting with your community?
One thing that I've really been hearing is that as youth take part in this movement, as we become more engaged, as we sort of learn the ins and outs, as we become more exposed to the movement, as we become more engaged, one of the biggest things that I've heard is that we need to make sure that in this phase of the movement, that what we can control right now is that we make it inclusionary, that we talk about those intersectionalities, that we not try to leave anyone behind, that we hold that respect for what has been accomplished in the past, and that, like I said previously, that we bring everyone along with us. But that we make it inclusionary and that we make it a leaderful movement, that we not just put a few people at the front. Yes, we can have orators. Yes, we can have people who have the gift of speech, but we need to shed light on those who are behind the scenes. And I'll be real that in the movement of the 60s and 70s, a lot of young people right now, they have frustrations with how it was mostly men at the forefront. We want to change that now. We want to make sure that in our time, that we make sure that everyone's voice is heard and that people are documented, that the narrative doesn't just go one way. We want to make sure that people feel like they are part of the movement, that they are at the end of the day, especially as youth, especially I'm 19, that we don't come out just so scarred and battle weary, but that we listen to each other and that we have that space of restorative justice, like I said earlier, that we allow people to flourish, that we allow people to share their experiences. Because I think that, especially doing most organizing in Louisville, that a big thing between the different communities in Louisville is to make sure that we push that that knowledge, that understanding that everyone's liberation is connected, that my liberation is connected to someone in the Latinx community, that their liberation is connected to someone else's liberation, that, and sorry if you hear a train in the background, that we are fighting together because we all have this collective understanding and we're still learning from each other what this country has been about, that we know what's at stake, whether it comes to just our voting or whether it comes to our organizing of marches, our organizing of youth coalitions, that we make sure that everyone is plugged in and we make sure that people don't, basically that people don't feel unheard, that people feel free to be who they can be, and that in the society that we are trying to create, the society that we are trying to push, the visions that we are trying to put out there, the love that we're trying to share, that if we want to create the society that's accountable, that we have to build it with the right tools. You can't use the master's tools to get the right society that you want. And so it's really just about all of that. It's about, us being inclusionary. It's about us, I'll be honest about this, us getting over petty disputes. Even in organizing here in Louisville, the adult community, the youth community, everywhere, you have people who fight with each other over the smallest little things. And I think everyone needs to understand that the work that each one of us are doing in this movement that is connected to each other's liberation, that's connected and it's going to benefit all of us, and that we can get so much more done together than we can ever separately. And that even comes in creating things that are new, like the Youth Coalition, or like No Justice, No Peace, creating all these different things that are innovative, that belong to everyone, that include everyone.
And I'm glad, Imani, that you lifted up the fact that, again, another ahistorical point is that the movement was not just all heterosexual men, right? We often forget about the women who were leading the movement. We often forget about the LGBTQ folks who were leading the movement, but who history will not necessarily tell you about or highlight because of those things, right, that don't fit the narrative of what we think of as leadership, right? And so what I have been so encouraged by is that so many people are represented when I'm at stuff that you all are organizing, because it is younger and you all seem to have been better able to make those, those intersections with different groups, right? And so that's beautiful to see. So we're running short on time, but I really want to get this last question. I'm going to actually combine two questions, and I'm going to try to answer some of the questions that we have in the chat. And I'll start with Jalen, because you kind of mentioned this, right? We talked about, what you should be doing, right? You talked about how some things just fall short, for lack of a better word. So my two questions, and I want you guys to try to be succinct in this. What do you all need as young people? Like, what do you need? What do you still, what can be a good resource, a good benefit to you all from your elders, from other people, from your peers? So what do you need? And then also, do you think young people, your peers, are effectively engaged in the movement right now? Do you think that they are adequately utilizing their platform, their power, their agency, their voice, or do you think they still need to be pushed to go even further? I'm talking with Jalen on that one.
Yeah, I think, Daryl, another great question, right? But I think it goes back to the education system. That's where we learn. When I talk about PRP, creating that Black Student Union, I know Manuel has one central. Seeing Black kids unite together and learn about their history and learn the power that they have is something so magical. I think within our school systems, with teachers, we need representation of those students. I use the analogy of an eagle. An eagle won't learn how to fly watching a chicken. It won't learn how to fly watching a goose. Like, an eagle only will learn how to fly by watching another eagle. So why should, when we talk about Black students and youth, should we not have Black teachers teaching them their Black history, teaching them their Black power, teaching them the power that they hold and the power that they have to dismantle systems? So I think that's what we need, and we need it at a young age. We need more schools like W.B. Du Bois Academy. We need more schools like the Lions School, the new academy that was created through JCPS. And some people might not agree with me, but I think integration, when we talk about integration, I don't know if it was 100% in the right direction, integrating schools. Because when you look at public schools today, we're technically still segregated, right? So if we go back in the 60s, we see liberation. You come to the 21st century, you see integration with separation. So I think really just implementing our curriculum in the classrooms is what we need, and we need it at the K through 12 level.
Aubrey, what do young people need? And also, do you feel like your peers are effectively engaged right now in the work?
Well, personally, I would say as more as the people that I surround myself with, more like-minded people like Imani, like Jalen, like other youth that I've been in communication, I've been organizing this summer. I feel like we're all, actively engaged and have been doing everything that we feel is right for our community, especially considering the majority of us was born and raised here, as went to school here. Like, we all know what we want to see for our community. And I feel like the people who I've also been surrounded with has been the most people in the forefront that's been educating folks. So when it comes to that question specifically, as far as the youth, I think there just needs to be a little bit more push for, you know, those who aren't as engaged to, I want to make it clear that not everybody has to be a protester, not everybody has to be an organizer. You know, there, you know, for Black liberation, like everybody plays their role, but I feel like it's very important for people to, you know, educate themselves and, you know, become like learn everything as far as their history, especially Black youth that either, you know, Black youth, we really don't have that many resources, like Jalen was saying, you know, having Black teachers, having people to teach us our history, you know, along with me and other people I've learned through the spaces I've been in, that it was kind of more of our job to teach ourselves about our history and teach ourselves, you know, the civil rights movement, teach ourselves just like what I said, our history. It was our job. And I feel like still to this day that it's affluent, like like Black youth still has to teach themselves everything that they need to know, and that it would be helpful if, you know, systems like JCPS would, you know, hire more Black teachers and, you know, incorporate more curriculum with teaching our history. I mean, we learn about literally everything else that, you know, in the world. We learn about Asian history, we learn about European history literally our entire lives. Like, I think it's important for us to get taught our Black history, and as well as have the representation, having Black teachers, having Black educators, having Black professors, especially in college and everything. So I think that's needed. And just for, you know, students who want to be more active or want to be more engaged to, you know, take it on themselves to learn and, you know, educate themselves so they can be able to educate others. And as far as what we need, I think really just support, you know, from everything that we're doing. Like I said, all of this is a lot, and it can be overwhelming, but it's very nice to, you know, have a long days of work, you know, doing all these actions and then be able to come home, or, well, now I can't come home at college, but, you know, get a call from my mother and, you know, she sees me on the television if there's news, like, or, you know, sees, you know, this broadcast, and it's just like, I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud that you're using your voice. I'm so proud that you've built up this confidence, because trust me, especially if you've been a friend of mine for a long time, like, I would not think 5 years ago, not even 2 years ago, honestly, I would be able to, you know, sit in a space like this and be able to talk about the things that I've been able to accomplish within the community. But that was all from just, you know, maturing and growing and realizing that if I don't do this, then who's going to do this? And just being confident that the things that I'm learning and the things that I'm doing is helping my community. And just knowing that people are behind me and people are behind all of us supporting us, I think that just keeps me, you know, doing this work, keeps me fighting, keeps me waking up every day and, you know, really realizing this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. You know, there's a lot of things as far as Black liberation people can have us stand in. I mean, personally, I'm going to school to go to medical school to become a doctor. And so there's a lot of things I can still do with as a physician to help my community out. But, you know, just having that, like, everybody has a role, and just the support, especially from friends recently, like, you know, people coming to me or DMing me like, thank you, like, even just simple posts, like, you know, just informing others about what's going on. They're just like, thank you for always posting and keeping people relevant on everything that's happening and stuff. Like, just the whole, like, that's what I want to conclude on, just the support from everybody and just us supporting each other. Like, I support you, Jalen. I support you, Amani. I support you, Daryl. So yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you, thank you. And if you guys don't know it, I support all of you all. I'm just extremely proud of all of you and the work that you're doing right now. And as I tell you all the time, I offer any support that I possibly can, everything I got to you all. So I want to move into some questions, and I think just for the sake of time, I'm not going to be able to have all of you answer them because we are, running pretty late into our conversation. I just love the way this conversation went. I just think so much of this has been so profound and so inspiring for all of us who are privileged enough to be able to listen to you all speak. And I don't say that as platitudinous, right? I don't say that to, just puff you guys up, but I really do think it's important that young people who are authentically at the spot right now in the space of time are able to speak and to educate, right? And so I'm going to direct this question to Imani. What can teachers do to best support students who are growing in their activism?
So I think that, and I'll start this off by sort of talking about my own experience, and I'll do it succinctly. Right now I'm at Center College. I'm in my sophomore year. Yes, it's first semester, but I can count on my hands how many Black professors there are. In fact, I think that there are a few that may have even left this year. So I think that the concerns that were raised earlier about having more Black folks be in those positions to teach and to have the freedom to teach our history and to teach the lens of AP US history, if we're going to high school, AP United States government and politics, to be able to integrate our perspective in those conversations, in teaching those students. There were so many times, I'll be honest, there were so many times being a high schooler here in Louisville at a predominantly white institution that I heard so many microaggressions, so many little snark remarks from mainly white folks about how they felt about the situation, how they felt about, Black folks and our history, different Black figures. And that has been an issue at Center as well. I'll be honest about that. But I think that one thing that teachers can do more of is to seek out more opportunities to connect Black youth to different opportunities around the city and outside of the city. Connect us to mentors, connect us to ideas and interests and areas that we probably that aren't as marketed towards Black youth. Get us engaged, bring in politicians. One of the biggest things that helped me during high school, and it was from being on the youth implementation team, was getting to sit at the table with Attica Scott and getting to be a page for her and getting to sit at the table with Charles Booker, getting to have those conversations and getting to take on that wisdom. And being able to hear their perspective as policymakers on in the Capitol, in the state Capitol, getting to hear about their experiences, getting to hear about what they want to push forward. So really speaking life and speaking into young people what we can be connected to, opening our eyes to what we can achieve, and to educate yourself on what you may not know about the Black community, and once again connecting us to those opportunities to help to allow us to come back and to sustain our communities, to build up Black businesses, to build up Black wealth, to inspire new systems of finance. All of those things, I wrote some things down, but to make sure that we are integrating those tables of having youth be at the decision-making table and making sure that they have direct access to people in power and to decision makers, engaging us for the long term for community sustainment and building.
I was muted for a second. You would have thought I've done enough of these to know when to unmute myself when I'm talking. I want to ask for a little bit of grace in you guys because I know we do have a lot of questions and we are only 2 minutes away from our end time. I want to ask for folks to stick around for maybe 5 more minutes so we can try to get us a few more questions. I want to try to be as equitable to people who have been patient, who have wanted to ask questions. Again, I'm not going to be able to ask everybody to answer, so I'm just going to pick some questions and just focus it to one panelist. So just in general, we have a question. Just in general, what can adults do to support you all? I'm gonna give that one to Aubrey. If you have any kind of concrete things that adults can do to support.
Concrete, I did speak on this, supporting us. Just basically, you know, being there for us. Sorry, I'm trying to like think and trying to be fast since we're short on time, but I don't know, just being there, just the basic, this is more specifically for like people who are like more our family or people who care about us, just, the whole, like, I support you, I'm here for you if you need anything. I don't know, just the gentleness of just, having people who love you and want to see what's best for you, just kind of reassuring that, they support you in everything that they're doing. They may be scared. My mom and my aunt and my grandmother, my dad even, is scared every single time I tell them, hey, I'm going marching today, or hey, might get arrested today. Just if that's how it's going to do. They be scared. They care about me. They care about people who, are around my age, and just the whole, my mom's just been really, every single time I leave the house lately, like, not that she didn't tell me that she loved me before. Oh, sorry, I'm in the library. Yes, but just every single time that I leave the house or she drops me off, if I'm not driving somewhere, then she's just like, Aubrey, I love you, please be safe. Just the whole comfort of knowing that people who are our family and people who love us support us and just, want us to be safe and everything. I just think just having that nice, like, warming aspect, to always think about is something that's needed too.
So I can relate to that because just yesterday, my mother called me and asked, was I out there at the protest? Was I okay? And for you all, those don't stop. Your parents are always going to call you and check on you and want to know, are you safe? Are you okay? And it's just part of what comes with the responsibility. Jalen, this was going to be to you. You all mentioned the need for more diversity in curriculum in JCPS and the need for more Black teachers. Because there's such a lag right now in both of those things, how do you feel about white educators teaching Black history? How can they be most effective doing it?
Yeah, sorry if it's loud. I'm also in a public space, but like I mentioned earlier with the eagle analogy, compare that to Black kids, right? We need more Black teachers teaching Black students, especially African American history. Like, why would you even want to teach some sort of history to students that you didn't live or your offspring didn't endure, right? But within that, we also, as Black people, have to be held accountable. There is a shortage in Black educators. There is a shortage within Black teachers, right? So I think that's why we need to instill that power into the next generation, to encourage them to be educators, encourage them to learn their history, or even like simple things like books and breakfast. That was something that I attended last week. Things like that, encouraging the community to come out to that, to get books so you can learn about your history. But I definitely think when in relation to African American history, Black teachers should always teach that history to Black students. Even when we're talking about the Holocaust, Jewish people should teach that because that's their history. I feel like we have to be really intentional about who we're putting in front of the classroom. I remember in elementary, my teacher saying, yeah, I took a trip to the Underground Railroad. And I'm like, man, that's a thing? Like, she said it's underground in a tunnel. So I went home to my mom, like, yeah, she said she went to the Underground Railroad under the ground in a tunnel. She's like, It was not under the ground. So simple things like that in 5th grade, if you're a white woman telling Black kids that, you have to at least know the facts, right? So that's what I would leave with that.
So my last question to you all, and I'm actually gonna let all of you answer it, but I'm gonna ask you guys just to be brief, because one of the questions that we had was, again, from another educator wanting to know how to best support you all. And I think, Imani, you made reference to the fact that you need your teachers and professors to make, available more resources and opportunities for you all. So what were you all able to do in high school that you felt gave you some sort of foundation with the work you're doing right now? And just take a few minutes, just take about a couple of seconds, really, just to name anything that you were able to do during high school that you were able to be a part of that you feel like has prepared you to be where you're at now. And I will start with Aubrey.
Well, Daryl, you know one of them, Muhammad Ali Center Council of Students. Like, I just also want to say thank you for everything that you did, and just facilitating the meetings, and just always being a support system for us and educating us, and then always bringing in important figures within our city to talk to us about things that are going on that not all of us probably were aware of. But not only that, also just our Black Student Union. I say that probably before joining it, I wasn't really aware of things that were happening within my community. And Black Student Union, not only was it able to give me a stepping stool to want to learn more about my history, but also just surrounded me with other Black youth that wanted change within our community. So yeah, both those programs, and then also me being vice president for 2 years of it, just really built me and just kind of pushed me into where I am right today, basically.
Thanks, Aubrey, and thanks for the shout out and for the love. Really appreciate that. It means everything. Imani, some things you were involved with that really helped you out as a high school student.
Yeah, so I'm traveling back in time because that was a really long time. I'm just kidding. No, it wasn't.
So long ago, Miss Smith.
I was part of different things like Educational Justice. It's a wonderful organization here in Louisville that really focuses on narrowing the education achievement gap. I was a part of the youth implementation team. Shout out to Miriam. I think she was one of the attendees. And really just learning about policy, really learning about who's in power, learning about the narratives around that power. And then I was a part of different things in school, like the National Honor Society. Now, some of the things in school that I was a part of, I many times was the only Black person who was trying to be at the forefront, but that helped me to understand the importance of bringing people along and putting those opportunities out there. So like the National Honor Society or the American Legion Auxiliary Girls State, Girls Nation, and we're getting to go to Washington and experience that. And then things that I'm a part of now in Center's campus, well, not really, but yeah, all those different things.
Thanks, Imani. Jalen?
Yeah, certainly, like I mentioned, YVPRC, working with them, I started there at 16 years old. I would say one of the main things that I'm proud of is in West Louisville, Family Dollar. Well, first, West Louisville was saturated with liquor stores, right? So Family Dollar applied to sell their liquor license a few years ago in the community. And with YVPRC, working with the other fellows, we kind of galvanized and mobilized with Atticus Scott and our state representative and council persons. And the Board of Alcohol Beverage denied their liquor license. That was through protesting and basically getting a petition signed by community members. So that's something I'm certainly proud of. And then as a journalist, I'm in high school working with PBS Reporting Labs and KT, having the opportunity to create journalism stories and be able to tell the narrative. One story that I'm super proud of was a story on immigrants. We spent 3 months shooting it with PBS, basically telling the story of new immigrants coming to America. And this was in 2017 when Donald Trump became the president. So there were kids that were terrified. So that story won an Emmy, so really excited about that. And then lastly, Cities United. I'm a fellow now, but prior to that, just working with them in CBMA, I had the opportunity to travel to Colorado and and meet with Robert S. Smith. So that was just an amazing opportunity. So many great things within Louisville that have, and people like even you, Daryl, Miriam, Trinidad, so many people that have poured into me within the city that I'm truly grateful for.
Real quick, what's that acronym you threw out there? YBPRC. What's that stand for?
Oh yeah, so Youth Violence Prevention Research Center.
Shout out to Trinidad and all great folks at YBPRC. Folks, I want to thank you all so very much. We are at time. We are even over the time that I even asked you for. So if you stayed on even longer, I want to thank you. Usually, if I was doing it in front of an audience, I would ask you to give our panel, our esteemed panel, a rousing round of applause. I'm going to do it because they can see me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is what we need. We need to, create platforms like this that allow youth to lead, to be at the forefront, to use their voice. Because clearly, if nothing else you've seen tonight, there's clearly enough talent to do some wonderful work here in the city. And we have to recognize it's coming from our young people. So again, I just want to thank them so very much. I want to again plug that this was our very first conversation as part of our I Am America series put on by the Muhammad Ali Center. The title of that series comes from Muhammad Ali himself, who said, "I'm the America that you don't want to think about, the one you don't want to see," right? And so I couldn't have thought of any better way than to kick this off. Our next engagement, we focused around public health, particularly around our public response to COVID-19, some of the disparities that we're seeing within our communities, our frontline workers and people of color. That conversation will be Wednesday, September 9th at 5 o'clock, and we hope you can join us there. Also, you heard a few people shout out the MAX program, the Muhammad Ali Center Council of Students, an amazing youth program that I would hope you guys check out. You also heard about YVPRC. You also heard about Mayor's Youth Implementation Team, as well as Youth Coalition Louisville, or YCL. All amazing organizations, not all of them, because there are clearly too many great people doing great work. I don't want to miss anybody, but just some of the things you heard tonight, they could all really use your support. And if you are interested, please contact myself or any of the panelists that you saw here tonight and really find out how you can get plugged into those efforts. I want to say justice for Breonna Taylor and for everybody who has been in the struggle. And thank you all so very much. Good night.
You all are awesome. Thank you guys. And thank you to all of our attendees for being with us.
Thank you so much, Erin and Daryl. Y'all have been lifesavers,
Yes.
especially with YCL.
Yes,
teaching us how to be
you.
better human beings.
Just let us know. You guys got my phone number. You know, Erin. We don't say it. We want to help and be as helpful and supportive as possible. Whatever you guys need, just let us know.
That's right.
We might have. I know that I've been speaking with Miriam and a little bit with you about